The new Nintendo 3DS is a true enigma of the Western Nintendo world. Not only does this 3DS serve to make parents confused on which console to buy, it's the only console to date that was released after its own revision, and is one of the weirdest parts of the 3DS's lifespan. Let's review the names of the 3DS line before getting started to clear up any confusion. The first 3DS was released as the original Brick 3DS, then followed by its big brother, the 3DS XL. After this, Nintendo made the budget, kid-proof 2DS, being the cheapest way to play 3DS games thus far. After the 2DS was the new 3DS, and then the new 3DS XL in all countries excluding North America. And finally, in 2017, the Nintendo 2DS XL would be the last version of this same hardware. Released in September 2015, an entire 8 months after its own successor, the new 3DS was naturally the black sheep among the others. Boasting multiple improvements over its multiple past versions, hardcore gamers were excited to get their hands on this more powerful remaster of what was once underwhelming. And today, we will take a look at the odd one out, and explore what made this neglected middle sibling such an oddity in the Western Nintendo world. The new 3DS was never supposed to come to North America. As mentioned previously, this customizable comrade wasn't available alongside its XL counterpart, like in other regions. Instead, North America received red and black new 3DS XL colors on February 13, 2015. Nintendo's logic with this was reflected in an article from Polygon.com 5 days after launch. Sumit Sarkar reiterated what Nintendo had said in an official statement to Polygon, quote, "We think the new 3DS XL makes the most sense for our market." Following up with this, Senior Manager for Licensing Marketing for Nintendo, Damon Baker, even admitted they weren't going to win over their core audience with this decision, which, with this amount of foresight, made the choice incredibly weird. Continuing though, Baker had told another source that they had released a single model in North America to reduce market confusion in the West, after studying Japan's sales statistics. In that previous October in 2014, when both new 3D models hit the Japanese store shelves, the XL version would be outselling the normal size by a ratio of more than 2 to 1. Predictably, Western fans were incredibly disappointed when the company had broke this news, as many people in North America were looking forward to being able to customize the look of their handhelds, while also being the size people preferred to carry around. In fact, this prompted so much disappointment, fans were creating an organization called Operation Faceplate, which only spawned because fans wanted to have the power to choose a console that they wanted. After Operation Faceplate had completely taken over the Western fanbase, Nintendo had made the fateful announcement on August 31st, 2015. Although important, this announcement would only be made through a single tweet by the official Nintendo account, and regardless of Nintendo's lack of enthusiasm, nothing could stop this niche American audience from rejoicing. The Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer Bundle was the only way to experience the smaller power the new 3DS line had to offer. This bundle came packaged with a copy of the game and matching faceplates additional to the ones that were already attached to the console. This bundle was slated to release on September 25th, 2015, and when this bundle was finally released, Nintendo had unexpectedly dropped faceplates on the official website with 3 different designs. The first and most expensive by far was the Hyrule themed faceplates, being priced at a whopping $16.99. Removing this Zelda tax leaves us with the yellow Pikachu design and a cardboard version of Kirby for only $9.99. With this, Nintendo of America had seemingly thrown together a new 3DS bundle with 5 total faceplates for America's launch. After all the effort fans had gone through for this version of 3DS, would those same fans believe that this console was worth their effort? Starting with the hardware placement changes, the power button is no longer under the B button, but along the bottom part of the console's perimeter. Also along the bottom part of the system is where the headphone jack is now centered, and room was made for the console and cartridge slot. And moving up a little bit, we have a pencil eraser-esque thumbstick that was added above the ABXY buttons. This was added in response to people wanting a second thumbstick on the console to more closely mimic the proper controls needed for some games. This extra thumbstick is pressure sensitive and not analog, contrary to the thumbstick across the system. With removing the Wi-Fi switch came with new placement for the volume dial, which now resides on the left side of the top screen to be more accessible by the user's index finger. The biggest changes are internal, however, now needing a microSD card over an SDHC card, which means the system can pull data off it faster, increasing the speed of downloaded games and cartridges that use the extra space. New internal chips provide a much smoother experience, making games like Super Smash Bros., Pokemon X and Y, and downloaded experiences lagless. The final and most important change was the addition of stabilizing 3D. Previously, a small shift in movement would create a bad 3D image, giving the user a headache or just having a blurry screen. Now, with face tracking technology, the 3D would need a lot more movement to become skewed, giving a real reason to keep using the main feature of the handheld line. Although these hardware upgrades and improvements are important, the consumer base would be more concerned with how customizable the console is. The addition of swappable faceplates would prove to give this variation a sense of identity compared to the XL counterpart. People had longed for this amount of official customization for an entire decade, since the last time this idea was explored was the Game Boy Micro in 2005. The Game Boy Micro faceplate gimmick was horrendously underdeveloped because of the system's poor sales and lack of focus, but people were more optimistic at the opportunities these 3D faceplates opened up. The new 3DS had opened its first few days to success across the board. The new stabilizing 3D effect was more than enough to sell the console, but, according to multiple sources, there were plenty to blow the reviewer away. In the new 3DS review done by IGN, reviewer Tristan Ogilvie was blown back by how much the gimmick of the console had improved, and prompted him to replay titles with the feature turned on the entire time. Various reviewers have ample pros for the system, claiming its vast improvements to processing speed and power, second analog nub, and 3D were long overdue. This, combined with an extremely convenient layout of the buttons, would create a perfect mobile gaming console to the eyes of the reviewer. But in the midst of all the raving came downsides. Since it's still part of the 3DS family, it's plagued with many of the same problems the original 3DS and 3DS XL had, like low screen resolution, lower overall power compared to smartphones in 2015, the camera still being poor quality, and the point that it still doesn't feel like the premium device it's meant to be. To elaborate further, let's take a look at a review done by Hugh Langley for TechRadar as recent as 2019. He lists several cons for the console, and although he loves it, he's keen at pointing out the divide the device creates due to its processing speed. This unfortunately would be a huge oversight in the planning of a new 3DS line as a whole, since a lot of the 3DS games coming out in 2015 or later are tailor-made to the new processing power, causing frame drops and other processing problems in the predecessors. Even games that were made before the development of the new 3DS even started gave the original two models problems. For example, in a comparison done by IGN, we can see that when Super Smash Bros. Is loaded up side by side, it takes the original 3DS XL over 4 times as long to just be able to load the same home screen. And just to make matters worse for the older models, the console has to hard reboot itself in order to close the software. To add more issues for the new 3DS, many people dislike the need to unscrew the back faceplate to take it off and access the SD card. Normally, to access the SD card on the older models, all you need to do is open up the little door on the side and simply push it in and out like a cartridge. And finally, many reviewers poked fun at the confusing name scheme of the new 3DS line as a whole. For this section, I will be including the history of this variation across all regions. The history of the new 3DS is too vast to be able to condense it down strictly to what was released in North America. To start, I will head to the country who saw it first, Japan. Released on October 11th, 2014, Japan's launch markets received two solid colors, black and white. To coincide with this was the launch of Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, a game that would be improved through the inclusion of a C-Stick. The sales numbers were comparable to the launch of the original 3DS, with the original selling 50,000 units in Japan during its first week. However, the new 3DS barely beats out this number by selling 60,000 units during that same 7-day period. Also in Japan, a whopping 38 faceplates were made available at launch, and in total sold 19,000 units in that same 1-week window, all combined. Among the most popular were the matching Monster Hunter plates, Yoshi, and the Super Mario wood grain style plates. Similarly, right before the launch in Japan, we also saw an update come through where we were able to change the themes of the 3DS on the home screen. This new feature allowed users to plaster their favorite series all over their home menu, and can be matched to their faceplates. This was the first major step to creating a console that can be completely customized to a single person. Then, shortly thereafter on September 21st, 2014, the Australian and New Zealand market would join in on the fun. In those countries, they would both receive new 3DS variations in only white, completely dropping the black console altogether. To this, there would only be 20 different faceplates available at launch, dropping 18 from the initial release seen in Japan. The reason for dropping these faceplates in Australia and New Zealand is currently unknown, It went completely unnoticed since it was the same day Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire hit store shelves, each game getting their own Pokemon Center Tokyo exclusive variations only found in that store. But with the people being preoccupied with the new Pokemon games, Nintendo fans in Europe were finally getting their hands on the console on February 13th, 2015. With it were no notable games to pair with it at launch, and no bundles to get the ball rolling when it came to customization right off the bat. The European launch saw even less faceplates available, having only a staggering 12 compared to the previous country's plentiful amount. But on January 6, 2015, Nintendo of Europe had reached out to members of the Ambassador Program asking if they wanted to purchase a new 3DS early. This was the only country to do this, and more interestingly, it came with exclusive packaging and 2 sets of then exclusive faceplates in this bundle. Based on the information I could find, the second pair of the Super Smash Bros. Faceplates with the English text could only be purchased as part of this bundle, but the same plates with Japanese text were a part of a regular retail lineup in Japan. There is a lot of documentation of the Ambassador New 3DS, so I'll run through it pretty quickly. Basically, this edition was offered to fans who had purchased the original 3DS back in 2011, before the price had dropped, in which they rewarded those customers with exclusive games that were never released on the Virtual Console to the general public. This release was something Nintendo had never done before, and to have it be in the country that launched the official product third was incredibly peculiar. What made this even more interesting was that this release was after Japan's release and even after New Zealand and Australia, so Europeans could have just bought one from New Zealand and played all the European games on it already. To make things even more weird than they already were, South Korea got their own exclusive release date of September 10th, 2015. The South Korean new 3DS had an incredible amount of small differences between them and the rest of the world. For starters, the Nintendo Network ID functionality was completely removed, restricting access to the now defunct Miiverse, and certain games that required Nintendo Network ID to work, like Pushmo, Rusty's Real Deal Baseball, and the Nintendo Badge Arcade. To take it a step further, the Korean new 3DS was never able to get theme customization added to their software. What makes this so interesting is that the Korean software got updated all the way until 11.16.0, which is the current software version for the rest of the world. There are other minute differences between the systems and how they work as well. For example, the launch bundle came with a version of the Virtual Console Super Mario Bros. From the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, in other regions like Europe, you could see the console and the title on the home screen, but this seems to be completely absent from the Korean version, exclusively using the default Virtual Console screen. Another interesting difference in the Korean unit is the completely different eShop theme. In this version exclusive to the South Korean eShop, it provides a more cheery, upbeat version of what the rest of the world receives. Take a listen for yourself. Finally, after all this time passes, we have reached a North American launch. On that fateful day on September 25th, 2015, we now see exactly what caused the fanbase to erupt. Unfortunately, launching with a largely forgettable game spells disaster for our handheld rather quickly. But to spice things up, Nintendo had added even more customizability to the console in early November with the previously mentioned Nintendo Badge Arcade. This created an entirely new sense of customization like we've never seen before, being able to decorate the home screen with different Nintendo IPs and even with stuff not even related to Nintendo, like food. This combined with themes opened new realms of possibility when it came to taking your portable to the next step and created a sense of unmatched personability. As we approach the latter half of the 3DS family lifespan, we have to remember the push Nintendo was making to stay relevant in the console market. With the horrendously failing Wii U, Nintendo was pulling out all the stops to push the 3DS into infamy. To be able to sell the new 3DS line, Nintendo had developed exclusive games for the line of handhelds that would launch on April 10, 2015 to coincide with the earlier release of the new 3DS XL. We wouldn't see another new 3DS exclusive release until July of that same year, being The Binding of Isaac. But after that, North America wouldn't see another exclusive release for another 2 full years, when the last 3 exclusive games would drop in the span of 4 months. Those 3 titles being Runbow Pocket, Minecraft New Nintendo 3DS Edition, and Fire Emblem Warriors. With only 5 games to the new 3DS exclusive lineup, fans felt that there was a lot more to be desired. Fortunately, this desire was only left half empty. The The Super Nintendo Virtual Console games were added to the 3DS Virtual Console library on March 3, 2016. Those 3 releases included F-Zero, Pilot Wings, and Super Mario World, and by the end of March, 3 more games were added, with the eventual total being 50 released Super Nintendo games through the end of 2016. That left the new 3DS line with technically 55 exclusive releases in the family's North American lineup. Although we could count each faceplate as a variation of the system, we will not do that. I'm fully aware as well that I'm straying away from the subject of this video a lot by exploring the history of other regions and not just North America. But I'm doing this to contrast the support of other regions to the lack of support of North America in particular. And for this, we will once again mention the Happy Home Designer bundle. This was North America's only way to experience the miniature update to the 3DS family. In fact, this was the only way to get a regular new 3DS until shortly after on November 25th, when the Black Friday Black and White bundles were released. For the staggeringly low price of $99.99, Black Friday shoppers had the opportunity to grab the cheapest new 3DS up until that date. And during this time, Japan had a plethora of new 3DS consoles to choose from consoles like the Dragon Ball Z bundle to the 2 separate Monster Hunter bundles at launch and the Primal Kyogre and Primal Groudon versions. As you can probably guess, Japan received much more support for the smaller version even within its first few months, but the new 3DS was only released for a short time in North America, so the consoles in Japan would eventually make their way over, right? Well, not so much. The second to last bundle we received was the Super Mario 3D Land bundle, and this console came pre-installed with Super Mario 3D Land, which was extremely odd to include in the lineup since the game was already so old. The problem this created for the new 3DS was that it wasn't helping boost sales at all unless a collector wanted the faceplates. Contrary to this was a completely unique bundle as the system's last hurrah. The Pokemon 20th Anniversary bundle came with Charizard and Blastoise faceplates, pre-installed versions of Pokemon Red and Blue, and a code to download a unique 20th Anniversary theme. This release was a great way to end the new 3DS console support in North America. Although many consumers didn't know it at the time, this handheld would slowly fade into the clearance bins in favor of its bigger version. April 28, 2017 would be the announcement of the new Nintendo 2DS XL, and with this, the official discontinuation of the new 3DS. In retrospect, this console felt like a huge missed opportunity. Being able to officially modify the hardware of your console to fit who you are is extremely important. Nintendo needed to create a personal relationship between them and the player, especially during this time of the failing Wii U. Not only this, but the personality of your console may be completely different from your friend, who has a completely different looking console than their friend. When it comes to hardware modifications, Nintendo has gotten it wrong twice. First, the Micro failed because of its ill-timed release, but I feel like the lack of enthusiasm and support in the West gave this particular 3DS a much shorter lifespan than it deserved. With a bigger push, this could have been the fashion statement Nintendo wanted to make a decade earlier, and with the proper timing, could have been a futuristic console that they wanted the original 3DS to feel and look like. The library on this console was also incredible. From retro games like Donkey Kong Country, Earthbound, Super Mario World, and Super Metroid, to the exclusive powerhouses like Fire Emblem Awakening, Kirby Planet Robobot, and Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. There are other games that made their first portable appearance too, like Super Smash Bros. And Xenoblade Chronicles that boost this library up several more stages and make the new 3DS the best version to carry around. To compare, although the new 3DS XL is more comfortable to hold, there's no way it can fit into a pocket. I would have also said the new 2DS XL was a good option as well, but the fragility is what knocks it back down. It's not even a contest between the other 3DS variations either. The original brick 3DS, 3DS XL, and slab 2DS are no match to the power this particular variation holds. The new 3DS does several things right. It takes the lackluster power of the original 3 variations and takes the processing speed up a notch, while still being as portable as the original. The interchangeable faceplates add flair that you cannot find with other variations either. This version was tailor-made to truly submerge you in the franchise you love the most with the addition of themes and badges. Even with its lack of support, the new 3DS will never be matched in its ability to make a home out of a handheld.